The image of Africa in the 21st century and the challenges of promoting African narrative is one of the key points of discussion as we enter day 3 of the 9th Pan-African Congress holding here in Lomé. During this important historic event, we are meeting here with Pan-Africanist and diplomat, His Excellency Ambassador Wallace Williams. It's a pleasure having you on Afrique Media.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. One of the key issues here is the image of Africa in the 21st century. Let's start with the image of Africa and the way Africa is represented mostly on Western media. The project Africa as a poor continent, as a continent in mystery, chaos, and continent in so much poverty. How do we get out of this narrative which the Western media mostly project on Africa?
Right. First, we have to have our own continental African media. Very important because the narrative is created by foreigners who have no other reason but to continue the division of Africa. That division has to do with images and imagery. So first begin, they want to discourage Africans from coming home and letting them know that this is a dangerous continent. It's full of chaos, which they've created to exploit our minerals. They create wars, division. And 1884 was purposefully done to make the continent divide into small nation states, which is what I call it rather. The continent is the country, but the entire continent is made up of nation states. And these nation states are singled out for debt traps to keep them in absolute total poverty. And what I mean by poverty is they are owing, they have to continue paying, they cannot get out of that debt trap. And that means that no economic development, no educational development, no health development, no food security development, because we are owing, and they always tell you that they want to be paid for the loans that they give out to these bad governance, bad leaders who do not take Africa and their own nation states as priority. If they took it as priority, what would happen? They would decide that, one, they are not going to sign any debt traps. The African Union has a role to play there. The African Union should be signing on behalf of all the nation states, just like the European Union does. Now, when that happens, we are protected as nation states. And when we do that, it means that they can say no to what they see as bad investments. Someone is coming to the continent. They're not doing any local content. They're not transferring any skills. They're not partnering with the local community or the nation state. How can Canada own 100% of mines on the continent? How can other countries, Australia, own 100% of mining? Nothing to the nation states that have the resources. How can France in Burkina Faso was paying 8 cents for the uranium and selling it at $2,000? That is savagery, absolute savagery. So that image has to stop by systems being put in place. A revolution has to take place among the nation states to say no is enough. And as a matter of fact, all the debt loans should be written off based on what is being owed and being extracted. So we have to change the paradigm absolutely entirely. And it's very important that our own media is developed. And what I say about that is, okay, Ethiopia started something, a Pan-African media. Ouagadougou is about to do the same. And the entire continent must get together and say, priority first, let's communicate our own narrative. When we communicate our own narrative, we will change the paradigm of the videos and pictures of Kwashiko, a child begging for food, flies around him, because that's what they want you to know. But yet, what they do is that they come under the guise of humanitarian aid, this and that. And what they're doing, they're exploiting the mineral resources, land grabbing, mineral resources grabbing, and taking it out of the continent.
You mentioned the African Union, and we're talking about the colonial borders which still exist. Africans are uniting here in Lomé to speak in one voice. It's a Pan-African Congress which is coming after several decades. Now, what reforms do you think should be done in the African Union to be able to help it implement rapidly, because there's a need for an urgent reform in the African Union?
The African Union has to become a Pan-African governing body and supported by Pan-African Congress and other Pan-African institutions on the continent who will be involved in the decision-making of the African Union on Pan-African initiatives. If the African Union doesn't want to do it, then the Pan-African Congress must make declarations and become a parallel initiative against the African Union. Let's not fool ourselves. If 60 to 70% of the African Union funds are coming from the West, what do you expect them to say? Why did they get rid of Arikano? Because she was exposing what the French were doing. And she had to be gotten rid of because the French were putting a lot of money into the African Union. Why can't the African Union, with all the resources we have and the funds we have, independently fund the Union? When you're going to have Japan, France, Britain, America, China, all put in funds into the African Union, they will obviously pull the strings in their favor. So the African Union has to be on its own, independent, truly independent, where all 55 nation states, including the 6th region, make the contribution to fund the Union and get rid of these people who are pulling the strings and making the decisions. We're fooling ourselves. So if they don't do it, then let the Pan-African Congress become an institution to drive the entire continent. We have to do it. Otherwise, we are going to be regressing and retrograde in allowing the African Union to make decisions for the continent, which does not help the continent.
Yeah, Your Excellency, during your presentation in the hall earlier, you made mention that Africa does not need the World Bank and as well institutions like the International Monetary Fund.
Yeah, because the World Bank, IMF, etc., what do? It's our money that they're lending back to us. It is our money that's being funded by the large corporations and interests, Western interests. And how do they get those funds? Those funds, after ripping off the continent, similar, as I said, to Ouagadougou and places like that, where they were taking our resources at minimal or none at all, and printing, for example, money in France and ensuring that 90% or 80% of your funds go to their central bank, which means they're controlling even your funds that belong to you. So therefore, what happens? They decide what you can do with your own development. And that has to stop also. And that is why the AES is the correct model for the rest of Africa, a federation of all the like states. So if you're in the East, all the Eastern nation states should form a confederation and then integrate all of it into a continental federation to ensure that we remove the borders, remove the visas, free movement among African peoples to trade, to sell, to market, to buy local, and to have all aspects of the value chain in their strategic policy. It's an important move for us to develop as a continent.
The France CFA, it's still a colonial currency that continues to dominate the economy of several African countries.
Yes, because they can print that at will.
Yeah, and efforts to move away from this currency has not materialized. Do you think there's something which we need to do, and what can we do to be able to fast track that?
The AES and Sahel states have already moved away and are going to soon get rid of the CFA. You have other alternatives now. The good thing about the digital divide is that now you have BRICS, you have a unilateral trade where other countries will accept your currency and they will allow you to purchase in their currency and your currency. Now, that is one step, but still, it will deter us if we don't have our own standard currency to be able to trade among ourselves. I know that perhaps is a settlement system that is being introduced, but we must have a standard currency, which is what Gaddafi was doing for the continent, and they killed him. So we have got to now look at a quantum leap, a digital leap, because now, because of digital inclusion, you can transfer funds and you can settle in different currencies. And I said it this morning, let us adopt the M-Pesa model because it's inclusive, it's digital funding, and it's digital transfer and digital purchasing, which is a model that can free Africa from the yokes of CFA and others. So they have to get digital inclusion, digital money, and an African central bank where we can print our own currency. CFA and the others, what they've done, every time they try to do the Afro, the Echo, they killed it because they know that the minute, the day, the second that Africa has its own standard currency, they're finished because they can no longer print willingly and use it as an economic hit. They have economic hitmen. They will just say, okay, print and devalue their currencies and print and flood the market. And that's what they will do. And therefore, your own development will be stymied, will be stopped, and they will dictate what you can do. So AES at the moment is the model because they are moving away and creating their own currency. That is why they are scrabbling to find all kinds of excuse to assassinate, destroy, undermine the AES. But the AES is the model for Africa.
Your Excellency, in the midst of all of this discussion of Africans wanting to reposition itself in a global stage, we have sit-tight leaders who have no interest in developing neither the country, their countries, or moving the continent forward, and they work mostly for the interest of the West and their yeah.
The solution is the Gen Zs. The solution is a Pan-African revolutionary movement. That's very important, and it's only the young military and young, passionate Pan-Africans that can do that. We need a revolution. Didn't France have a revolution? Didn't America have a revolution? Didn't most of the other countries in Europe, etc., have their own revolution? Moving away from the monarchy, moving away from sit-tight heads of state, right? Who over the hundreds of years, was keeping the individual rank and file of the population in poverty. So the sit-tight despots, the sit-tight bad leaders, the aged geriatric leaders have to go. And it is only the youth that can do that because they feed their own people. They feed, and that I'm talking about the sit-tight leaders, they feed their clans, look after themselves, and don't care about the rest of the population. So the youth has to rise, and they have to revolt. They have to be revolutionaries. And hopefully, they will get the support of the military in their nation states to do it. It's the only way to solve this problem. They must be an integral part of moving Africa forward because it's 70% of the continent. In another 5 to 10 years, we are going to not have these geriatrics, these despots. But the youth must position themselves to take leadership roles, and they must be integrated in governance.
Your Excellency, let's not forget that the West will not want to let go the advantages which they already have in Africa. So how do we approach the fact that the West is equally engaged in trying to counter whatever actions Africa are
taking? They're dangerous and very, very dangerous. But with the right models, the approach to local content, with the approach to getting the value chain adopted in each nation state is going to be part of that. Because if you own your resources and localize your resources to the extent that you produce, You sell among and buy local, meaning buying local on the continent, what you have, and exchange a kind of barter, then you are strengthening. The more of the nation states that get together, then we are going to, unity is strength. It all goes back to unity. United the continent on the aspect of individual nation states saying, let's federate, let's work together, let's have the same national continental goals yearly. So if, for example, as I said this morning, you have African development goals, it becomes a focus for all the nation states. Is it food security next year? Is it education, free education for all the following year? Is it health for all the following year? Is it water? All these, you just put some prime goals together, work together as a continent and set those goals. There's nothing about UN SDGs 2063. It means nothing. Africa is left behind with those. Keep those for your own continental and Western planning. Be like China, and I have to refer to China. China closed shop, looked internally and said, where do they want to go in 5 years, 10 years? And they kept working on their 5-year plans over 50 years from out to so. Look at where they are today. So we take that. It's there. The models are there already. We can take those classic models and make use of them. And that is what the continent has to do to fight against Western imperialism, to fight against neocolonialism, getting rid of those sit-tight leaders, getting rid of reverse colonialism, by pumping money into African institutions. Tell them no, form our own institutions, and let those institutions be the ones that finance and fund our development.
Now, let's talk a bit about reparation and restitutions. How important do you think this is, and how do you go about it?
Important.
Yeah.
Didn't the Israelis get a reparation for the Holocaust? So now we need to calculate, and I think it's already been done, we need to calculate how much we lost over 400 years and the millions and hundreds of millions of people that were forced into labor without any reparation or payment. We now calculate that this is what is owed to us. And we make use of that by ensuring that we have an institution that get the funding or get an equation from those that is being owed and create a balance. So it's accounting. You say, okay, you used over 10 trillion of our money by forced labor. We will take that against your debt trap and write it off. There's nothing they can do. We say, this is what we're going to do. You owe us 10 trillion or whatever the amount is arrived at. We're wiping off all your debts, right? By what is being owed. And whatever is left, we put it into our own economic development. So people have to have the wherewithal, the non-compromises stance to do that. And it means uniting under the AU. If the AU doesn't want to do it, then let the Pan-African Congress be the ones to do it. Say, this is what you owe us. We're wiping out the debt of Gambia, Nigeria, Cotonou, etc. And there's nothing they can do about it because it's a fact. If they don't want to pay the money, then we wipe off the debt and say, well, you're still owing us this amount from the debts that are wiped off. And going into the future, we don't want any debt from you. We are going to have one, or put it into an institution. If you are owing us, we will now leverage against you with that.
Yeah, Your Excellency, it took several decades for such a historic gathering to come to light. What's your greatest expectation here? We're talking about 4 days.
A Congress now to accelerate the development and the ideas of Pan-Africanism must host and must have a planning committee now and a yearly or twice yearly, if necessary, meet on the continent. Don't go anywhere else. Stay on the continent. So today was Lomé, Togo. Next year, it could be Ghana. Next year, it could be Kenya. The following year. The following year could be South Africa. And I would say go to where like-minded Pan-Africanists, really leaders have demonstrated that they are part of it. Whilst that is being done, of course, you are whittling away those sit-tight leaders, you are whittling away those geriatrics, and younger minds will come on board to be able to help with the planning of the Pan-African Congress yearly goals, because the Pan-African Congress can now set the goals that I have mentioned, African Development Goals initiatives, because the continent needs it. And the continent needs those young minds. They need the digital divide. All are those things that we can incorporate as part of the declaration from the 9th Pan-African Congress. Let's have the 10th next year, the 11th at another country, the 12th, and continue yearly, because we cannot afford to wait for another decade before the Pan-African Congress. But the minds are here, the the ideas are here at the moment, and people are now passionate about changing the paradigm for the continent with Pan-Africanism.
Ambassador, the young people of Africa are watching you, and this time around, it looks like the continent's youth are quite ready and they want to get involved. What message will you pass to the young people watching?
Form your own Pan-African revolutionary movement as part of the Pan-African Congress. Make decisions and tell the Pan-African Congress that this is what you want, and start having what I will call in each country a Pan-African revolutionary movement run by the youths. So African youths, you have already woken up, form yourselves into a Pan-African movement, those who have the passion and the wherewithal to drive the ideas, do so. It only takes a few. And it could be in every community within every nation state. So in Kenya, if you have 10 provinces or 12 provinces, have a Pan-African revolution movement in each province. Have leaders who are committed, join hands together, and form a force to be reckoned with in every nation state. That's my idea. Let every nation state form a Pan-African revolutionary movement, and let them have chapters in each province, in each nation state, and unite under one Pan-African revolutionary model.
Ambassador Wallace Williams, Pan-Africanist and diplomat. It's a pleasure having you on Afrique Media.
Thank you.
And Afrique Media is one of those channels which has been promoting Pan-Africanism as well in Africa.
Yeah.
And the battle against Afrique Media is enormous as well.
Yes, well, you just call on me every time. I would be happy to work with you, work for you, pro bono. It is necessary that what you have should be supported, and let it be the reference point in terms of the media narrative that we want the rest of the continent to have. We don't need to even promote this outside. We need this as a vehicle to drive and continue to drive the process for Pan-Africanism on the continent. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
Thank you once again, and thank you for watching. We invite you to stay with us. We are still here in Lomé. The 9th Pan-African Congress is unfolding. Stay with us.
Thank you.